I think we're in a moment in life where peace is an important thing. Therefore, I am going to lead you in putting your hands over your heart, and with your other hand, just receive and release peace. We are a community that believes that we are all connected. Therefore, I know that the peace that we are receiving is the peace that we are giving back to the world. And wherever you are receiving it. So thank you. So as we get started today, we will light our candle. And as we light this candle, we gently release the outer world and enter into this sacred moment together. And I invite you to close your eyes and let's go within for our invocation. There is one infinite present expressing itself as all life, whole, abundant, loving, and alive within each one of us. Today we gather in gratitude, opening our hearts to the goodness that is always seeking expression through us. We affirm health in our bodies, peace in our minds, love in our relationships, and prosperity in every area of our lives. We release limitations and welcome greater possibilities. May this service awaken joy where there has been heaviness, clarity where there has been confusion, and hope where there has been uncertainty. We are ready to receive inspiration, wisdom, and renewal. We allow ourselves to be lifted by love and guided by truth. And so it is. So today, our talk is by Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, has been a motivation speaker and workshop facilitator for over 25 years. Ron is also an ordained minister with the Center for Spiritual Living. He is a gifted speaker, a published author. His inspirational style, coupled with a keen sense of humor, makes him a favorite with audiences everywhere he has spoken. In 2018, the Center for Spiritual Living honored him with a Doctor of Divinity. And in 2019, he was awarded the Meritorious Minister Award for his outstanding service. In 2024, he was honored with the title of Emeritus Minister. He resides in Port St. John, Florida, and his wife, Becky, who is an artist and graphic designer as well as a CSL practitioner emeritus. Please welcome Reverend Dr. Ron Fox.
Becky and I always enjoy coming back here, and you're right, it just looks so great. You guys are doing a really, really fabulous job. So my topic today is a fresh start. And I want to be, that sounds good, right? With all the work you've been doing, a fresh start. So I want to begin with two quotes. The first one is from a lady named Cynthia Thurlow, who wrote, "Please understand this. Bad chapters can still create great stories. Wrong paths can still lead to right places. Failed dreams can still create successful people. Sometimes it takes losing yourself to find yourself." And the second quote is from a lady named Danielle Copa. And she wrote, "We have to keep going, even when it's scary, even when all of our strength seems gone. We have to keep picking ourselves back up and moving forward, because whatever we're battling in the moment, it will pass and we'll make it through. We've made it this far, we can make it through whatever comes next." So I want to begin by talking about a topic I know you all expected to hear today. I want to talk to you about boxing. I know you expected that I would be doing that. So for those of you that aren't familiar with boxing, when somebody gets knocked down, a man or a woman gets knocked down in a fight, they have till the count of 10 to get up. If they don't get up by the count of 10, they're out. And so when they go down, their corner is, of course, screaming, "Get up, get up." And when they do, their corner cheers. And they cheer because the fighter was knocked down, but not knocked out. He or she overcame an obstacle and continued on. And the truth is, that's what life is like when we go after our dreams. In some ways, it's like stepping into the ring and confronting the opposition that we know is going to come. And I'll just say to you, if you have a dream or you have a goal in life and you're not meeting any opposition or needing to go over any hurdles, your dream's not big enough. Because what good is a dream that's so easy to get to? Part of the joy in achieving a dream is knowing that you've met hurdles and opposition and gotten through it. We need to keep on going, even when we know what's happening isn't thrilling us. We need to step forward. So I want to read you a quote by Anonymous. "When we walk to the edge of all the light we have and take a step into the darkness of the unknown, we must believe that one or two things will happen. Either there will be something solid for us to stand on, or we'll be taught to fly." So I want to tell you a fable. And the fable is about a group of young boys who live in this town, and there's a wise man in the town, and they decide that they want to fool him. And so what their plan is they're going to wait till they see him when there's a crowd around, and they're going to confront him. And what they're going to do, one of the boys is going to have a little bird behind his back. And they're going to say to the wise man, "Is the bird that he's holding, is it dead or is it alive?" If he says it's alive, the boy's going to kill the bird. If he says it's dead, the boy's going to say, "No, look, it's alive." And so they do see the wise man. They go over to him and they put their plan into action. They ask him, is the bird dead or is the bird alive? And he responds, "The life you are holding is in your hands. The life you are holding is in your hands." And that's true for all of us. The life we are holding, our life, is in our hands. And what we do with it is up to us. Ernest Holmes, the founder of the Centers for Spiritual Living, said the will of God is everything that expresses life without hurt. Anything that enables us to express more happiness, more power, greater power, anything, so long as it hurts no one else, is God's will for you. So as much as we can conceive can become part of our experiences. There are no limits. So think about that for a moment. As much as we can dream, as much as we can want in our life, we can have it because the power that created everything that we see around us is willing to work with us to help us do that. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I don't know a whole lot about construction, but on construction sites, very often you'll see boards, and they take those boards and they hammer them into a form. And then concrete is poured into that form. And what form does the concrete take? It must conform to whatever shape the form is in. And they can make that form as big or as small as they want it to be. And it's the same with our thoughts. One by one by one by one, they come into our consciousness and they establish the entire mold or pattern of our entire body of thought, which in turn becomes the form for everything we experience. Through our thoughts, we have limitless possibilities. We can heal physical ailments. We can gain love in our life. We can become more prosperous. We can have more creativity. Whatever it is we want, as I said before, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, that is what Spirit wants for you and me. So a lot of us, I'm assuming, admire really elite athletes. And the truth is that they're really no different than you and I. I want to tell you about a couple of articles I read. Years ago, I read an article by an MD who he wanted to do research to see what separated elite athletes from you and me. And the hypothesis that he went into the experiment with was that he was going to interview these people. He was going to hear stories about people that from an early age were different, that they were really, really good athletes even at a young age. And that isn't what he heard. What he heard was these people early on were just as average as you and I are. The difference was they had this iron will. They were willing to do whatever it took to get to be whatever it was that they wanted to be, whatever it was that they wanted to accomplish. So another article I read about, which gives a concrete example, Steve Nash was a player in the National Basketball Association, the NBA. When he played, he was, even for back then, he wasn't big. Today he would be like a midget, but he was only 6'3" and like 170 pounds. And yet he was twice voted the most valuable player in the National Basketball Association. He made all-star teams like 10 or 12 years in a row. The article that I read quoted his brother. His brother said, "I was a better athlete than Steve." Now, I forgot to say, they were born and raised in Canada. And his brother said, "I remember days when I would be sitting inside watching him outside when it was freezing cold or raining, and he would put shot after shot after shot up. He would be out there practicing because that's what he wanted." And his brother said, "I have a really good life now, but sometimes I wonder, what would my life be like now if I had his will, if I had his desire?" So my question is, how much do you want your dream? How much spiritual work are you willing to put out to get that dream? Or will you have sometime in the future have to sit back and think what could have been? And in case any of you out there are thinking, well, I'm kind of older now, that doesn't work. That doesn't work for a couple of reasons. One is we're living longer, so if you don't have dreams, you're going to have a lot of boring time left to sit and twiddle your thumbs. But the other reason is there's all kinds of research that has been done that shows The only time older people don't do as well as younger people is when the older people believe they're not going to do as well because they're older. So you can't use that as an excuse. The only thing that stops us in our life is our beliefs. And we can change those beliefs anytime we make the decision to do it. You know, Becky and I got into CSL in 1990, and I still remember the first time that we walked out of a Science of Mind church, and I turned to her and I said, I don't know what happened in there today, but my life changed. And it took me a while to realize what it was, aside from the fact the minister was a really good speaker, was the positive outlook that we have on our lives, that we can be or do what we want if we're willing to put the work in. So Rabbi Erwin Kula asked, as a writer, and asks a really interesting question. So I'm going to tell you what the question is, and then, as hard as it is for a minister to do, I'm going to shut up for a little bit, maybe 5 or 10 seconds, and let you think about the answer to this question in your life. Here's the question he asked. Are any of us the same person we were 10 years ago? Think about that. Are you the same person you were 10 years ago? My guess is there's nobody, I'm not going to ask you, but there's nobody here that would say yes, okay? He said, Kula said, it would blow your mind if you could go back and read journal entries that you wrote 10 years ago, or this is even worse, or love letters that you wrote 10 years ago, or goals or plans that you might have had 10 years ago. He said, there is no single identity. What we call self is only a moment of truth. Bless you. It's only a moment of truth in a moment of time. And one of the things, you know, when I said that we have such a positive outlook, one of the things that we teach, bless you, and knock it off, that's enough, is one of the things we teach is that principle isn't bound by precedent. And what that simply means is if something is going on in your life and you're not happy with it, it doesn't have to carry forward. You can change that God isn't bound because of something you did 10 years ago to keep it in your life. If you're not happy, you can change your life. And if you are happy, you can have a better and better life. There are no limits. So let me give you another example. Joan Borisenko is a PhD who's done tons of research, and she's also a great spiritual writer. And one of the things she writes about a group of elders that were sitting around in a circle, and they were sharing wisdom on this question. Okay, here's the question. Looking back over your lives, what's the most important insight that you can share with us? Looking back on your lives, what's the most important insight that you can share with us? One of the women said, when you get to be my age, you realize you're always in transition. The idea that life is stable is an illusion. Everything changes, like it or not. The only thing you can do is live in the moment with gratitude. You know, good things happen to us, bad things happen to us. That's part of life. But what happens out here really isn't what's important. What's important is what's going on in here. We can't always determine the circumstances that life is going to show us, but we always can determine how we're going to respond. So I want to read something to you. So besides being a minister, I'm a writer. And so I decided that I was going to write on a question, and I'll tell you what the question's about before I tell you what it is. I read years ago that a college professor on the first day of class gave her students 2 assignments. She wanted them to write 2 short essays that helped her understand who they were, okay? And I decided to write on one of those questions. And I want to share with you what I wrote, which I think you'll see has a lot to do with what I've been talking about. And I did this, just to let you know, I never wrote like this before, but I did it stream of consciousness. I just sat down with a pen one day and a piece of paper and wrote. And here's the question. It is only after many surprises and choices, detours and disappointments that I have arrived at somewhere I could never have anticipated. I'll just read it again. It is only after many surprises and choices, detours and disappointments that I have arrived at somewhere I could never have anticipated. Born in the Bronx, lonely childhood, military school, terrible experience. Somehow I make it through. Went to college, get 2 degrees, get married. Corporate career, move a lot. Career not fulfilling, not sure where to turn. Marriage ends, she cheated. I am devastated, not sure how to go on. Moved to California, like the weather, not so much earthquakes. Still not happy with career, beginning to realize it's not about geography or different job. Something deeper needs to change, not sure what. Feeling lonely and lost, don't like job, raising children by myself, harder than I thought. Blind date, never met anybody like her. Fall in love, get married, find a church with a strange name, become minister. I found it at last, my place in life. Looking back, who could have predicted? There are regrets for sure, missed opportunities, disappointments, pain, but mostly good. Wouldn't change a thing. They got me where I am. Sometimes, look at wife as she sleeps. And I think there's been lots of pain, but being with her makes the trip here all worthwhile. How far I have come, who would have guessed? Probably all of you could have written something equally like that for your own lives. So, Greg Lavoie is an author, and he wrote a really wonderful book titled Callings. And in the book, he talks about a 7-year-old girl who goes to her dad and says, "What do you do for a living?" And he said, "I teach college." And she said, "What do you teach?" And he said, "I teach art. I teach people how to draw." And she looks at him and goes, "You mean they forget?" You know, we all sometimes forget. We forget who we are, and we forget why we came here. So I want to throw out a few questions for you that you might want to think about this week or journal on. What is right for me? Where am I willing to be led? What feedback is my life giving me? Is my energy growing or shriveling? Is my life deepening? If you think about that, any one of them, they'll give you an idea of where you are and where you want to go. So I want to give you one last thought before I do something to close. And Leo Biscaglia, the late Leo Biscaglia, was a teacher. I forgot if it was USC or UCLA, but he had a class. He started a class on love, a college-level class on love. So I want to read his response to you from people that say the following things. When I get enough money, I'll do it. When the kids are out of the house, I'll go back to school. When I get that bonus, I'll buy a piano and take the lessons that I've always wanted to take. His response to people like that is, you never will. If you're not doing it now, you never will do it. Don't wait for tomorrow. Do what you want and do it now. For now is all we have. Now is all that is real. So I want to close with a piece titled, Barely the Day Has Started, by a lady named Veronica Robinson. Barely the day started, and it's already 6 p.m. Barely arrived on Monday, and it's already Friday. And the month is over, and the year is almost over. And already 40, 50, 60 years of our lives have passed. And we realize we lost our parents, friends. We realize it's too late to go back. So let's try, despite everything, to enjoy the remaining time. Let's keep looking for activities that we like. Let's put some color in our gray. Let's smile at the little things in life and put balm in our hearts. And despite everything, we must continue to enjoy with serenity this time we have left. Let's try to eliminate the afters. I'm doing it after. I'll say after. I'll think about it after. We leave everything for later, like after is ours. Because what we don't understand is afterwards, the coffee gets cold. Afterwards, priorities change. Afterwards, the charm is broken. Afterwards, health passes. Afterwards, the kids grow up. Afterwards, parents get old. Afterwards, promises are forgotten. Afterwards, the day becomes the night. Afterwards, life ends. And then it's often too late. So let's leave nothing for later, because still waiting to see you later, we can lose the best moments, the best experiences, the best friends, the best family. The day is today. The moment is now. God bless you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Spiritual Wisdom Weekly from the Greater Orlando Center for Spiritual Living. If this episode supported you in any way, we invite you to stay connected. Listen again, share it with someone you care about, or simply carry what resonated with you into your week. Until next time, take good care and keep growing in spirit.